The next speaker is Jiří Novotný, who for me is a municipal influencer. I could use this title for him because he will tell us something about his village, about his commune, his municipality, and I think it can be of inspiration to all of those who want to change the village and turn it into something that will be also sustainable for the future. Thank you for having invited me. To start with, I want to attenuate a little bit the praise that you've addressed to me, because I think that we are still at the beginning, but that's what we all are, and there are beautiful visions ahead which we can aspire to, and that's a huge opportunity. So given the current tragic situation, we are bound to do something. It is an opportunity. When 15 years ago I started to be active in my village, none of the buildings was reconstructed, and everybody told me, well, you have to do something. And now we have super modern architecture, because the fact that we had to start anew helped us go one level higher. My village may be unknown to many of our listeners. We do have a brand or several brands which exist in our cadastral territory, and that's a beer, that's a place which is beautifully situated in the mountain area. So there are a few brands which are associated with this commune. What does the communal energy mean for the village and for myself and for the future? I think that the future is not about those thick cables running from the power generation plants and the pipelines and all those distribution networks, and it will work in a different way. It will go two ways, just like internet. I think that a community, a commune, should be an element that would help the citizens to produce, to generate energy, and to sell it to his neighbor. And that's not the way it works now. You have the PVs, and you can then sell it off to the huge energy grid, and the neighbor who is living next door will have to buy it from this grid. That's not the way it should be, and that's why the community energy exists, or should exist, and that's what it means to me, to produce and to share on the spot where I live. It is advantageous because I need not sell it off at the price of 1 or 2 crowns and to oblige my neighbor to buy it at 8 crowns. If I sell it at 4 crowns, I will make a better profit and he will buy cheaper. So that will be great, and I won't sell it just to that particular neighbor, but to the entire community. The philosophy is that whatever is produced in the locality, it will be consumed locally, and that was my idea. What can we use? Each village is specific. Actually, where we are, we have huge deposits of black coal. It is the biggest. These are perhaps the biggest deposits of black coal in the Czech Republic, there were huge prospecting activity in the 90s, and then later it was all attenuated, luckily for us.
So I wondered, so when we do have coal, what's our situation? I read some Professor Richard Perez's articles from University of Alabama, thinking about the energies available to us. On the right, you can see unrenewable energy resources from coal to nuclear, and on the left, renewable resources, wind, solar, and so on and so forth. He recalculated the perspectives 30 years ahead on terawatt year, which is 10 multiplied by 8, up to multiplied by 12 kilowatts, and we can find out what will be the worldwide consumption in 2025 or in the next 30 years. And we can see what part is played by solar energy. That is enormous, huge. What's shown as solar or wind energy, this is to be used somehow in a reasonable way, not to cover all the planet with photovoltaic panels. So that is a consideration if roughly 6% of the Earth's surface is covered by photovoltaic panels, except for oceans and seas. And if it's done, this is recalculation for renewable resources and the non-renewable resources. But it gives us the result that there is 12 times more of solar energy than the total world consumption, and 2.5 times higher availability of wind energy. 38% of our planet's surface is used for agricultural purposes, and therefore we still have enormous potential in the RES. A similar picture showing that if everything is electrified and there are no losses out of coal or coal burning or gas liquefaction, then we will get to the result that solar energy would be enough because it's 27 times larger than our presumed consumption, and wind energy exceeds it 5 times. What's the situation in Trojanovice? We know that fossil resource of coal is negative. It liquidates a community, a place. If we see whatever problematic zones in the Czech territory, it's either after Sudeten dislocation of the population or the places where coal was extracted. So we want to prevent such a situation that people who lose their opportunity due to coal move away. There are new opportunities and therefore new people coming to the region, people with no links, historical links to the region. This results in problematic regions being formed. If you look at Trojanovice, we have energy from grid, we have solar energy, and we have biomass. I do not count with wind energy. We are in a protected landscape area, but in other territories, I suppose wind energy should be included as well. Community and municipal energy. Today we can only run municipal energy. We can get prepared to community energy, but it municipal energy means that I take care only of energy management in buildings. I manage my own buildings. It's profitable for the community, for the citizens, while community energy, this is a higher level. Higher in the sense that I do make people, citizens involved, and together we form a single unit. However, we find out that we cannot build a community energy without resources. Therefore, what must our aim be? When we do not have still possibilities for community energy, we must strive at creating most of municipal resources. We must strive at getting subsidies for photovoltaics, for instance, starting communicating with the community, starting to wondering what types of storage facilities should be applied and switchers should be used. In order to be able to store the energy, we must have resources. We can play with hydrogen, we can play with batteries. If we have several times more of resources than we need for our own consumption. So what's not important task now, what is not the most important task for now is not storing the energy, but getting most of resources. If we have an ambition to become a leader municipality, a leader village, and I think we should strive at that, if there is a person with a family house, if there is a residential house with a secretary or manager, both the private owner and the administrator of the residential house will have their single interest to take care of the building. But then there is a high-level village municipality, and they are people there who have more interests than just their own personal ones. The problem does not lay in election, that representatives are elected for 4 years. The problem is that many of the representatives think really in terms of 4 years, while they should think in terms of 10, 15, 20 years. The village exists for more than 4 years, and whatever we do properly now, the village can have profit from it for many years in the future. And the village representatives must realize that the results may not be felt immediately. Therefore, on a long-term basis, we are active in waste management, and if the representatives of other villages come and see, they are rather disappointed. They say, you've been working on waste management systems since 16 years, but we do not see such big results. And this is what I observe very often, that at the municipal level, results cannot come immediately. And having big solar power plants is something that, again, will not bring results immediately and not everywhere. That's why I also spoke about biomass and biogas. This is not a good resource if we are to cultivate maize and we transfer the energy in a flat manner. But we have a big potential in waste. Legislation puts a pressure on us to get rid of biomass. It's 30–40%. I measure every single waste we throw away in my family. Since a year, I've been weighing and measuring every single item of it. And I know that roughly 30% of our family waste is bio waste. Therefore, there is a big potential in it, and we must use some smaller local biomass devices. I am a supporter of sorting out waste and using again some materials we otherwise have to extract from the soil. So biomass has enormous potential for bioenergy and for production of heat. Another big potential is to be found in building management. When I dealt with Siemens under another of our projects, they showed me as an example, like for instance in Finland, they have a device, a system that works with the weather predictions, and therefore it's clear how to trade the energy. If there is a sunny day, they stock the energy in batteries, the system evaluates, the next day again will be sunny, so we can sell the energy stocked in the batteries. Prediction for the third day says it will be a rainy day, therefore the energy will be not sold, but will be used for operating of their department store. And therefore, even before the energy crisis, they were able to save €500,000 in terms of energy savings per year, which is a fantastic benefit for them. And therefore, I would say that building management is enormously important. Also, buildings start to communicate with each other. These are buildings in chain. And if there is the right connection, or I will say it this way, things that affect citizens, people, and there are many companies addressing me, offering their ideas, but I say we must have one single way of communication with citizens, one portal. Let us concentrate all our ideas on one single portal. Thanks to bank identities, we can log in very easily today, and once we get logged in the citizens portal, the e-government should not mean that I just pay my dog fee or I ask for a change of my address or whatever. The advanced copy of e-government should be that I already see what's my energy situation, what are the possibilities to share personal cars, for instance, independent transport possibilities. So all kinds of information would be gathered in one single place. Legislation is a hinder. Also in terms of this citizens portal I spoke about right now. Today, already in Prague, I went to the lower house of the parliament, and it was promised to me that there would be inter-ministerial commenting procedure of an amendment to the law, hopefully in June, July, being approved. If, although the amendment is a sort of a compromise, if it's approved, our government could be praised for that, because it would mean really a big step forward. It was very much inspired by Austrian legislation, and Austria is very good at community energy. In my understanding, community energy should not be reduced to local level. We spoke about it till now. It's sharing within one single municipality energy between municipality and citizens, or between citizens and companies. Community energy should exist also on company level, so that companies involved, if I take for instance a company active in building and mending communications. They need specific plants, production plants, where they do not produce their own energy, but they may have photovoltaic roofs, they may produce energy and use it somewhere else. Why do they have to go through a trader? I think that the community energy has a larger scope of use. Our colleagues spoke about the batteries and the sustainability. They said, or the durability, and durability or sustainability is not just environment, it has many aspects. The community energy is a typical example because it has a good environmental aspect, it has a good social aspect and also economic aspect. So, environment is not the only thing because man is a part of the ecosystem, and if a man is not reconciled with the new approach, or if he's not happy with it, he will refuse it and the product will never work. It must be economous and advantageous for a man. So the community energy has all the aspects of sustainability. Today, thanks to the Union of Community Energy, we have some instructions for mayors, for communes, and if legislation is forthcoming, and it will have to because it will need to transpose the EU law, so the Czech Republic is under the supervision of the EU, it may provide the instructions. So you can look at UKENCZ and follow the instructions. What it brings, above all, that's security. Unfortunately, I wasn't here to listen to Mrs. Drábová. She certainly spoke about nuclear energy and about security, but I can imagine that what is the most secure is if there are lots of sources of energy, because it is easy to target a nuclear power plant. If you have a large number of battery storage sites, it is difficult to hit them all. And it provides a feeling of safety, of security. Today's world is nervous. Anytime I open my paper, my journal, I can see the titles about energy, about crisis, about energy prices. Most people are kept in warm and their energy prices are fixed, so there is nothing for them to be worried about, but they are. And this would give them the feeling of certainty, of assuredness. So if we invest in it, people go to places where they can get the information, and it will be within the walking distance if it is within a community. However, nowadays, even on the level of a community, everybody plays for himself or herself, so it doesn't really work. This looks like a chaos, but I think that it is the future. In the center, we can see the citizens and the portal of a citizen, where all the information should be focused, and there is a kind of battery storage site where where everything will be accumulated, whatever is produced in the commune, and people will just take it from there. So it will be cheaper. So I hope that I squeezed myself in the time limits, and that is all I want to say. I have a few questions.
You mentioned the situation abroad. I know that you went to a couple of places across Europe. To what extent do you copy on what you've seen in other places, and is it possible, can be pushed through the Czech legislation, or will there be still any differences? What's the inspiration? How does it work? And can it be adopted here despite the legislation? Well, definitely it will work. Legislation is about people. It is about ourselves. We have to keep pushing on that. The politicians will not do anything unless they are bound to, unless they are forced for it. I know it because we were struggling against the coal mining in our village. You just have to keep pushing. It was quite inspirational if you look at the larger scale. In places like Austria, like Germany, they are 10 or 15 years ahead of us. And what we already spoke about described it well. We have to diversify our sources. We have to have as many of them as possible. In the town of Haswood, they produce 5 times as much energy as they consume. They can store the energy in hydrogen. Well, if we don't have any power, we cannot store it. We have to produce it from the renewables when there is an excess of production. It is not an easy homework, but we will have to go ahead with it. It is of great inspiration to go to places where they've started already to work on it and where they've been communicating with people. They were not allowed to build something within a week, a windmill, for instance. It took some 5 years of negotiation, but they do have it now. The project which you've prepared for Trojanovice, I would believe that you also already have a project for the PV installation on the roofs, or what should be the sources which you want to get. For me, the essential is to use the photovoltaics, because we could hardly use the windmills. And for the bio waste, our capacities are not sufficient. So even if everything was used as biomass, we wouldn't have enough capacity. We will need to include something in larger areas. It would be worthwhile if it covered an area of the population of 30,000. We have 2,700. We would need to add some plants like corn, and we don't grow it. So what we want to do is a transformation project. We have the former mines where extraction was never really performed, but there was some prospecting and some mining works were done there. So we would like to use this. We would have a project in the former mine area. It is a brownfield which should be converted into a smart village, but we do not want it to become an island surrounded by the prehistoric installations. So what we want is that we want to materialize some of the progressive ideas, but they should be applied everywhere. So it should cover a broader area. It is a complex project which has an ambition of using the principle of fair transformation, that is the money coming from the EU for the transformation of the coal mining areas in around Karlovy Vary, around Ústí nad Labem, and around Ostrava. Now the last question. I live in a community which still is considered as a smaller one, although it has about 6,000 inhabitants, and we have a newly elected representation at the town hall, and we want to embark on a new way, new direction, and we want to take some systematic steps as similar to a company. A company would take some systematic steps to bring it somewhere, and we would do it the same way. What do you think would be the first step in your plan, and how soon do you believe you will take the step? I think that the first step, and this is something which I might even want to recommend to others, it is to change the way you think. To think in to realize that a village is there to stay for hundreds of years. In the history, we used to have a lot of bishopry property, forests, and it's been returned to the bishopry. And they wanted to. Actually, there was a possibility of purchasing some place of it to install a cyclable path, and we finally used it as an engagement, an involvement for the owner to allow the public to use it. So, and it was quite advantageous economically for everyone. So that's the way we should do things. You have to consider things, and you have to make use of your experience. I've been in my position since 16 years, and if somebody comes to a new position, to a new function, and nothing is handed over to him by his predecessor, it is very difficult to start from the scratch, which is not my situation.